Welcome to our sponsored programs Budgeting Basics. These videos are designed to help you understand the budgeting process and enable you to create a draft budget for your sponsored project. Today we will be taking a look at two similar but very importantly different categories: equipment and materials and supplies. These videos don't replace working with our grants specialists. Our grants specialists here in OSP are experts in the nuances of uniform guidance and know details beyond what we will get into here. They also read through the rules for your specific programs to make sure to catch any unique rules that apply. Your assigned grants specialist will work with you individually to construct a budget that meets your needs and complies with all the sponsor and JMU rules and regulations. Having said that, we know there are a lot of questions around where numbers come from, and folks would like to be able to put together draft budgets. For example, to estimate the costs for your project to know if it's too ambitious for the program you're considering. So these videos will give you an overview to help you get started. For many, if not most sponsored programs, it's necessary to purchase some stuff. Think of a microscope, or audio-video recording devices, or eye tracking equipment, or mass spectrometers. When you go to put in the budget, there are two categories that might seem similar: equipment and then materials and supplies. How do you know which one to put it in? Here at JMU, we generally follow our Negotiated Indirect Costs Rates Agreement, or NICRA, which we learned about in our indirect costs video. Equipment is tangible property worth over $5,000 and that has an expected useful lifespan over 1 year. On the other hand, if it is less than $5,000, or if its expected lifespan is under 1 year, it should be classified as materials and supplies. Now, if you were to use Google and try to look up the difference between equipment and materials and supplies, you'll probably see a slightly different definition. That's because uniform guidance defines equipment as exceeding $10,000 and having a lifespan of at least 1 year. This threshold was changed from $5,000 to $10,000 in 2024. And most sponsors have updated their policies and procedures to align with uniform guidance. For example, the NSF did so in Supplement 1 to the 2024 PAPPG, which was released in 2025. However, our NICRA generally supersedes uniform guidance and agency policies and procedures. So unless your sponsor explicitly states that this overrides our NICRA, we will still use the $5,000 threshold. Note that when we next negotiate our NICRA, this threshold may well change. We may change to using the $10,000 threshold. So if you are watching this well after it was recorded in March of 2026, I would recommend double checking that we still use the $5,000 threshold. Our NICRA is available in the budget section of our website, and you can watch our indirect cost videos to see exactly where it is on our website and how to find this information within it. Now, what I've said holds for federal and most state funding. When it comes to non-governmental funding, such as foundations, we generally follow our NICRA as well, and that's especially true if we are using the indirect cost rate that is within our NICRA. However, if the foundation gives an alternative definition of equipment or materials and supplies, we will generally use their preferred definition. Forward. Now, a question that we frequently get is, what about software? For this, we note that tangible property as defined in uniform guidance does include software, as well as firmware and support services. So any software that exceeds $5,000 and 1 year of useful life should be budgeted as equipment, not materials and supplies. Otherwise, it should generally be in materials and supplies. If you're looking at our NSF and R&R budget template, though, you might see another category: computer services, or ADP/computer services. We'll look at those templates in a few minutes. This is generally not where software belongs. This is typically used for computing costs such as reserving times on supercomputers or clusters, although it can also be where database access fees and similar things belong. Where can you find these budget templates? Well, if you go to our homepage, off on the side, you're going to see Budget Development, and then our first page here is Overview Templates and Resources. If you click that link, that takes you to this page, and scrolling down, you can see our templates section. We have an NSF specific budget template, an SF424 budget template, an R&R budget template, one for the Spencer Foundation, a generic budget template, and then a travel detail tool. We're going to look specifically at the NSF, the R&R, and the generic budget template right now, but these should give you a sense of what to look for in any of our budget templates. Okay, this is our NSF budget template, and here you can find equipment in its own separate category, D, and then you can find materials and supplies under other direct costs. This is also where computer services can be found. In our budget template, it's very similar to the NSF budget template. Here, equipment though is category C. Materials and supplies are also other direct costs. It's the first entry again, and you can see here that computer services is listed as ADP/computer services. This is our general template. This one does look a little bit different. So here you will find supplies listed first, and we do ask you to break it up into technical and laboratory educational software, and then underneath it, equipment separately. Here there's not the separate category for computer services. So finally, let's talk about why this matters. Why is there a difference between equipment and then materials and supplies? And what's the big deal if you put something in the wrong category? Well, first of all, equipment is actually excluded when calculating indirect costs. As we explained in our indirect cost video, the indirect cost rate is applied to something called the modified total direct costs. Modified means that some categories aren't counted, and equipment is one of those. The government has determined that if a significant chunk of the award funds is going to buy some piece of equipment, then your institution shouldn't get IDC for that money, since in some sense it's just passing through you on the way to the manufacturer or vendor. Secondly, though, sponsors may claim ownership of equipment that is purchased with grant funding, and some even will require it to be sent to them at the end of the award. Even if they do not require the equipment to be provided to them at the end of the award, there are typically some other conditions on how equipment purchased with grant funds can be used or disposed of. This is not generally the case with materials and supplies. So that's why it's important to keep track of these definitions and make sure that things get in the right category. As I said, your assigned grant specialist will be more than happy to assist you with any questions you might have, and we look forward to working with you on your budget. Thanks for watching.